A look at just exactly what's going to happen. Let's start with Florida. I mean, Steve, you're there in Florida. You've run a lot of campaigns there. You think about Marco Rubio and all the promise he seemed to have. You know, I hate to call it an autopsy, but if you were to do an autopsy on this campaign, because it looks like it could be over for him pretty soon, what exactly went wrong?
Well, Trish, I mean, I've known Marco Rubio almost 2 decades. A lot of his people are really close friends of mine. And I think the biggest mistake they made was not playing aggressively in New Hampshire in the early states. I mean, Florida is pretty formulaic. The person who wins the most states historically wins Florida, and the person that wins Florida wins the nomination. And I think he just got caught up in the same lack of momentum for him here as everywhere else.
Gina, I also think something that hurt him a lot was just that sort of that going after Trump, going after Trump in a way that seemed uncharacteristic, shall I say, for him. I mean, don't forget the wet pants comment and all the other things. That it seemed a little out of character. And so then you're left as a voter thinking, well, who is this guy? Do I really know him?
Yeah, I think that there's a big mental component to this whole thing, and the voters want to feel like you're being authentically who you are, even if they don't completely like who you are. You know, Trish, just as an example, you hear people all the time that are voting for Donald Trump say, I'm voting for Donald Trump because I trust he is who he says he is. I believe he's authentic, even though I don't like this or that about him. When Rubio did that, he really changed the dynamic because it said he was willing to become something to get elected. Voters don't like that.
So why stay in it at this point, Steve? Why is he still campaigning right now?
Well, I mean, I think at this point, once he made the decision to stay in Florida, there's no reason not to run out the ground ball. I mean, I think the idea of him continuing past Florida, if he loses badly tonight, is kind of absurd. But, I mean, he had so much invested, you might as well go and see what happens.
Let's talk a little bit about Ohio. Very tight race there. You just heard Jeff Flock's report on it. Kasich says, though, that the math is on his side there. Let's listen to him quickly here speaking out on the campaign trail.
I'm not running to block anybody, but the math is real. And if somebody can't get the total number of delegates, and we have 1,000 delegates yet to go, you will see me pick up speed and have momentum. I may go to the convention with more delegates than any of them, but probably not enough to win. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, so we're talking about the potential of a brokered convention. We're looking at Donald Trump right now with 469. Gina, do you think he's going to pick up enough tonight and in the coming days to basically put himself right out in front, or does Kasich have a point?
I absolutely do, Trish. You know, tonight favors him very much. The only state that I would predict that he might not win completely would be Ohio. But John Kasich has 60-some delegates at this point. Donald Trump could get very close to 1,000 delegates tonight. And going forward, all of the states favor Donald Trump. And so the reason you see people like Kasich and Rubio saying they're going to stay in the race no matter what is for the sole purpose of plucking delegates away from Trump in an effort to keep him from getting the 1,237 that he needs. But I don't think the American public is going to take very kindly to that. I think it will work in Trump's favor.
Yeah, we've seen that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Historically, that has happened before, and it didn't work out so well for the establishment when they try to move like that. 1237. What's your thought right now, Steve, on whether he gets to that number soon?
Well, I think if he loses Ohio, mathematically, it's hard to get there. And then the Republicans have a real problem, as you guys mentioned. I mean, do you take away the nomination from a guy who's maybe 50 delegates short? But again, I think if Kasich wins tonight, and there's a lot of evidence, frankly, of Democrats voting in that primary today, which would hurt Trump, I think it's hard for him to get to 1237 without Ohio.
All right. Well, we'll be watching for it. Thanks so much, guys. Good to see you. We'll see you a little bit later in the show. Make sure, everyone, to tune in to Fox Business Tonight.